This is where part 2 begins. The invitation arrived without warning. No royal seal. No messenger escort. Only a black envelope placed directly on the council table during an active meeting inside Blood Moon Fortress. No guards saw who delivered it. No servant admitted touching it. Yet somehow, it appeared in the center of the room untouched beneath the eyes of the kingdom's highest-ranking wolves. Witnesses later described the atmosphere inside the chamber as instantly uneasy, because the symbol pressed into the wax seal had not been seen for centuries. A silver crescent surrounded by claw markings, the royal crest of Shadow Fong Kingdom. Several elders reportedly stood up immediately upon seeing it. One council member dropped the document entirely after recognizing the symbol from forbidden historical archives. Even Alpha Kale remained motionless for several seconds before finally breaking the seal himself. Inside contained only one sentence. The Queen has returned. No signature. No threat. Nothing else. Yet according to surviving witnesses, fear spread through the room almost instantly, because everyone understood what those words truly meant. Selena Vale was alive. And somewhere beyond the northern mountains, she was no longer alone. The message arrived only 3 days before the annual Alpha Summit, a gathering attended by rulers from every major werewolf territory. Traditionally, the summit focused on trade, military agreements, and territorial disputes. But this year, the atmosphere surrounding the gathering already felt unstable. Rogue attacks across the eastern borders had intensified dramatically. Entire villages vanished overnight. Patrol groups stopped reporting back. And increasingly disturbing rumors spread between kingdoms. Silver wolves seen near abandoned battlefields. Unknown warriors moving through northern territories without detection. Ancient symbols appearing across ruined rogue encampments. At first, many dismissed those reports as fear-driven exaggeration, until the bodies started appearing. The attacks were unlike anything modern territories had experienced before. Not random killings, organized executions. Rogue leaders connected to underground trafficking networks were being hunted systematically. One by one, every corpse carried the same mark burned into nearby stone. The silver crescent. The symbol of Shadow Fong. The message was becoming impossible to misunderstand. Someone was cleaning the kingdoms from the shadows. And according to whispers spreading through the territories, the Silver Queen herself had begun delivering judgment. Inside Blood Moon Fortress, Seraphine was unraveling. The letter shattered whatever confidence she still possessed. Because, unlike the council, she understood exactly how dangerous Selena's survival truly was. Not simply because the truth might emerge, because Selena now possessed power beyond anything Seraphine could control. Witnesses described her behavior becoming increasingly unstable after the message arrived. She doubled palace security overnight, ordered additional guards outside her chambers, and secretly attempted contacting mercenary groups beyond the eastern territories. But by then, even the people closest to her had started noticing something disturbing. Seraphine looked afraid. Meanwhile, Kale's reaction remained far more difficult to interpret. For months, the Alpha searched desperately for proof Selena survived. Now he finally had it. Yet, instead of relief, witnesses described something closer to dread. Because deep down, Kale understood one brutal truth. The woman returning to the kingdoms would not be the same Selena he failed to protect. That version of her died beneath the Blood Moon cliffs. Whatever was coming back had survived betrayal, isolation, and transformation entirely alone. And perhaps most terrifying of all, she no longer carried the mate bond connecting them. That silence continued haunting him relentlessly. No emotions, no connection, no trace of Selena remaining inside his mind. It felt unnatural, empty. as though an entire piece of his existence had been ripped away permanently. Then came the summit. The gathering took place inside the Iron Crescent Citadel, neutral territory located between the Western kingdoms. Security around the fortress became heavier than any previous summit in modern history. Elite warriors lined the walls. Multiple Alpha Guards protected every entrance. No one wanted to admit it publicly, but nearly every ruler attending feared the same possibility. The Silver Queen might appear, and according to ancient prophecy, her arrival would change the balance of power forever. The summit began under visible tension. Several Alpha leaders openly accused neighboring territories of hiding information regarding the Shadow Fong sightings. Others demanded military alliances against the growing rogue threat. But beneath every conversation, one subject dominated the room silently. Selena Vale, the Omega who should have died. Then, everything changed. According to nearly every witness present, the temperature inside the citadel dropped moments before the doors opened. Not metaphorically, physically. The fires lining the chamber reportedly weakened instantly. Several wolves shifted uneasily without understanding why. Then the main doors slowly opened, and silence consumed the hall. At first, no one moved. No one spoke. Because standing in the entrance beneath silver torchlight was Selena. But not the Selena the kingdoms remembered. This woman carried herself differently. Cold, controlled, untouchable. Silver markings traced faintly across her skin beneath dark royal armor. Her eyes glowed softly in the darkness, and behind her stood warriors unlike anything modern kingdoms had seen in centuries. The Shadow Fong Royal Guard. Massive wolves walked beside them silently. Ancient creatures once believed extinct. Several Alpha leaders reportedly stepped backward instinctively upon seeing them. Not from fear alone. Recognition. Ancient instinct buried deep within werewolf bloodlines. The instinct to submit before royal authority. Then Selena began walking toward the center of the hall. Slowly, calmly. Every footstep echoed through the chamber like a warning. No one stopped her. No one dared. Even Kale remained frozen where he stood. Witnesses later described the expression on his face as devastation mixed with disbelief, because for the first time since the cliffs, he finally saw what Selena had become. And she looked completely beyond his reach. When Selena finally stopped near the council floor, the silence became unbearable. Then one Alpha spoke the question no one else dared ask. "Who are you?" Selena looked directly at him, and according to surviving witnesses, the entire atmosphere inside the hall changed when she answered. "I am what your kingdoms tried to erase." No one moved. No one breathed. Because deep down, every ruler inside that chamber understood history was unfolding in front of them. The Wolf Queen had returned. Then came the moment that shattered Blood Moon territory completely. Selena exposed the truth. Not emotionally, not dramatically, coldly, precisely. She described the forged message leading her to the cliffs, the rogue ambush, Seraphine's involvement, and finally, Kale's silence during the attack. Shock spread through the summit instantly. Several Alpha leaders turned toward Blood Moon representatives in disbelief. Council elders inside the chamber reportedly looked physically ill. Meanwhile, Seraphine completely lost composure. Witnesses later claimed her hands visibly shook as Selena spoke. Because, for the first time, the truth was no longer trapped inside palace walls. The entire Kingdom Alliance now knew Blood Moon territory betrayed its future Luna. But Selena was not finished. Because, according to her, the betrayal at the cliffs was only the beginning. Something far larger was coming, and somewhere beyond the eastern territories, A force powerful enough to destroy every Alpha Kingdom was already gathering. At first, many rulers dismissed the warning entirely, until Selena revealed the final piece of information. The rogue armies devastating the borders were no longer acting independently. Someone was leading them. Someone ancient. Someone connected directly to the forgotten wars that nearly exterminated the royal bloodlines centuries earlier. Then Selena spoke a name no one inside the chamber expected to hear. Lucien Draven. The reaction was immediate. Several elders reportedly went pale. One Alpha demanded the summit be evacuated instantly. Because according to forbidden historical records, Lucien Draven was never meant to return. The problem was this. Selena claimed he already had. The moment Selena spoke the name Lucien Draven inside the Iron Crescent Citadel, the summit stopped being a political gathering. It became a crisis. For several seconds, no one inside the chamber moved. Even the strongest alphas appeared visibly shaken, because according to werewolf history, Lucien Draven was not simply a rogue leader. He was the reason the royal bloodlines nearly vanished centuries earlier. Most modern kingdoms considered him a myth, a monster from forgotten wars, a name buried inside restricted archives too dangerous for ordinary wolves to study. Yet the fear inside the room proved something unsettling. The older leaders knew the stories were real. And now, those stories were returning. Witnesses later described the atmosphere inside the summit hall as suffocating. Questions erupted immediately. How is he alive? Where has he been hiding? Why attack now? But Selena did not answer right away. Instead, she looked directly toward the eastern territories displayed across the massive war map at the center of the chamber. Then she pointed toward multiple villages marked in red. Villages destroyed over the past year. At first glance, the attacks appeared random, scattered, unorganized. But when connected together, a terrifying pattern emerged. Lucien was not invading territories blindly. He was surrounding them, slowly, deliberately, closing in toward the Central Kingdoms one region at a time. The realization spread through the summit instantly. This was not rogue violence. It was preparation for war. A war that had already begun long before the kingdoms noticed. Meanwhile, outside the summit walls, evidence of that war was growing impossible to ignore. Entire caravans vanished between territories. Border patrols stopped returning. Trade routes collapsed across the eastern regions. And perhaps most disturbing of all, survivors who escaped rogue attacks described seeing wolves unlike anything recorded in modern kingdoms. Massive creatures carrying black markings burned into their fur. Wolves that fought without fear, without hesitation, as though controlled by something beyond instinct itself. Some survivors claimed those wolves did not even react to pain. Others insisted they moved like soldiers instead of rogues. Organized, disciplined, commanded. Inside the summit, panic spread rapidly among the alpha leaders. Several demanded immediate military action. Others argued the Shadow Fang kingdom itself could not be trusted, because according to ancient history, royal bloodlines and Lucien Draven shared the same origins. That accusation changed the atmosphere instantly. Warriors reached for weapons. The Shadow Fang guards stepped forward protectively around Selena. And for one dangerous moment, it appeared the summit itself might descend into violence. Then Kale intervened. Witnesses later described the moment as shocking, because despite everything Selena revealed about Blood Moon territory, the Alpha stepped directly beside her. Not behind the council. Not beside Seraphine. Beside Selena. The decision stunned the chamber into silence, because publicly, Kale had just chosen the Silver Queen over his own kingdom's reputation. Some believed guilt motivated him, others suspected something deeper. But whatever the reason, the political consequences were immediate. Blood Moon territory stood divided in front of every kingdom, and Lucien Draven had not even arrived yet. Then came the attack. The first explosion struck the eastern wall of the citadel shortly after midnight. The impact shook the summit fortress violently enough to crack stone pillars across the chamber. Seconds later, the alarms began. War horns echoed across the fortress. Warriors rushed toward defensive positions, and from the towers overlooking the eastern valley, guards reported the impossible. The rogue army had reached the citadel. No one understood how. The fortress was surrounded by cliffs and heavily protected mountain routes. Large-scale armies should have been detected hours earlier. Yet somehow, thousands of rogue wolves appeared outside the walls without warning, as though they emerged directly from darkness itself. Witnesses later described the sight as horrifying. Black banners moving through heavy fog, torches stretching endlessly across the valley below. And at the center of the army, a single rider mounted on an enormous black wolf, Lucien Draven. For centuries, artists attempted depicting him through fragmented historical records. None came close, because according to surviving witnesses, Lucien did not look entirely human anymore. His appearance carried something unnatural, ancient. His eyes glowed with deep crimson light. Black markings spread across his skin like living shadows. And the moment he stepped onto the battlefield, wolves across the citadel reportedly felt fear instinctively. Not ordinary fear. Primal fear. The kind buried deep inside bloodlines older than memory itself. Then Lucien spoke. And somehow, his voice carried across the entire battlefield. "You hid the queen from me long enough." The statement confused nearly everyone present, except Selena, because in that moment, she realized something terrifying. Lucien was not attacking the kingdoms for territory. He was hunting her. The battle began seconds later. Rogue forces crashed against the citadel walls from every direction. Elite warriors fought through the night, desperately trying to hold defensive lines. But almost immediately, it became obvious something was wrong. The rogues were stronger than ordinary wolves. Much stronger. Even experienced alpha guards struggled against them. Several warriors reported seeing fatal injuries heal within seconds. Others claimed rogue wolves continued fighting after wounds that should have killed them instantly. The battlefield descended into chaos rapidly. Meanwhile, inside the fortress, another betrayal unfolded. During the confusion of the attack, Seraphine attempted to flee the citadel secretly. Witnesses later confirmed she tried escaping through underground tunnels beneath the western towers. But she never made it far, because Selena intercepted her personally. The confrontation between them lasted less than 3 minutes. Yet according to surviving guards, the tension inside the tunnel felt unbearable from the moment they faced each other. For the first time since the cliffs, Seraphine looked directly into Selena's eyes without control over the situation. And for the first time, she understood how dangerous Selena had truly become. At first, Seraphine tried denying everything, then bargaining, then blaming Kale. But Selena remained completely calm throughout the confrontation. That frightened the guards more than anger would have, because there was no emotional hesitation left inside her anymore. Only certainty. Then Seraphine made one final mistake. She revealed Lucien was never working alone. According to her, someone inside the kingdom had been helping him for years, feeding information, destroying royal bloodline records, preparing territories for invasion from within. Before Selena could force more answers from her, the tunnels exploded. The impact separated them instantly, and when the smoke finally cleared, Seraphine was gone, escaped into the chaos above. Meanwhile, the battle outside worsened rapidly. The eastern wall collapsed completely before dawn. Rogue forces flooded into the lower citadel levels. Alpha leaders who once argued against Selena now fought desperately beside Shadow Fang warriors simply to survive. But despite the violence spreading through the fortress, Lucien himself barely moved. Witnesses described him watching the battlefield almost calmly, patiently, as though none of this destruction truly mattered. Then Selena finally understood why. The attack on the citadel was never the real objective. It was a distraction. Lucien wanted something hidden beneath the fortress itself, something ancient, and according to forgotten royal records, the Iron Crescent Citadel was built directly above one of the oldest royal vaults in werewolf history, a vault sealed after the fall of the original Wolf Queens. The realization came too late, because beneath the battlefield, deep below the collapsing citadel, something had already awakened. The lower vaults beneath Iron Crescent Citadel were never meant to be opened again. That fact appeared repeatedly throughout ancient royal records recovered after the war. Some documents described the chambers as burial grounds. Others called them prisons. But among the oldest Shadow Fang texts, the vaults were referred to by a far more disturbing name: the Hollow Below. A place where something ancient had been sealed long before the first Alpha Kingdoms existed. And now, during the largest rogue invasion in modern history, those seals were breaking. The first signs appeared moments after the eastern wall collapsed. Witnesses throughout the citadel reported sudden tremors beneath the fortress floors. Torch flames shifted silver. Stone corridors vibrated with low sounds resembling distant growls. At first, many assumed the rogue attack itself caused the damage, until the dead started rising. Not literally. Something worse. Warriors previously wounded during the battle began changing unexpectedly. Their eyes darkened completely. Their movements became unnatural. And according to surviving medics, some no longer recognized allies at all. They attacked indiscriminately, without emotion, without fear, as though another force had entered their minds entirely. Panic spread through the fortress almost immediately, because whatever was happening beneath the citadel, it was spreading upward, fast. Meanwhile, far below the battlefield, Lucien Draven descended deeper into the hollow below, surrounded by elite rogue guards. He moved with complete certainty through corridors untouched for centuries, as though he had already been there before. That detail would later become critically important, because according to forgotten royal archives uncovered after the battle, Lucien was not searching for the vault. He helped seal it centuries earlier. The deeper Selena pursued him underground. The clearer one terrifying truth became: Lucien had never been a rogue king driven by conquest alone. He was trying to finish something ancient, something unfinished. The underground tunnels beneath the citadel stretched endlessly through black stone lined with ancient symbols. Many of the markings had been clawed apart violently long ago. Others appeared burned directly into the walls themselves. And everywhere Selena looked, she saw evidence of old battles, broken weapons, ancient skeletons, massive claw marks carved into stone thick enough to survive centuries untouched. The deeper she traveled, the colder the tunnels became. Not natural cold, the kind of cold that settles into instinct itself. Even the Shadow Fang warriors accompanying her began growing visibly uneasy, because despite their training, they recognized something they had hoped never to see again. The seals were failing. Meanwhile, above ground, the war descended into total chaos. The rogue forces overwhelmed multiple defense points across the fortress. Entire sections of the citadel burned uncontrollably, and for the first time in modern Alpha history, the kingdoms fought together instead of against each other. Blood Moon warriors defended eastern gates beside rival packs. Shadow Fang fighters protected wounded Alpha guards. Even leaders who once demanded Selena's arrest now followed her commands without hesitation, because survival itself had become uncertain. And through all of it, Kale fought like a man trying to redeem a lifetime of failure. Witnesses later described him as almost reckless during the battle. He repeatedly entered collapsing defense zones alone, protected retreating civilians personally, and according to multiple surviving warriors, Kale nearly died 3 separate times defending Shadow Fang soldiers he once would have considered enemies. At first, many assumed guilt drove his actions, but eventually, a different realization spread across the battlefield. The Alpha was not fighting for redemption anymore. He was fighting for Selena. Meanwhile, deep beneath the citadel, Lucien finally reached the final chamber, the hollow below. According to surviving descriptions, the chamber defied logic entirely. Massive black pillars extended upward beyond visible sight. Ancient chains large enough to restrain giant creatures covered the surrounding walls. And at the center of the chamber stood a sealed stone throne surrounded by silver markings, the throne of the first Wolf Queen. But it was not empty. Something was chained beneath it, something alive. The moment Selena entered the chamber, the atmosphere changed violently. Every silver marking inside the vault illuminated simultaneously. Ancient wolves accompanying her immediately dropped into defensive positions. Even Lucien stopped moving for several seconds. Then slowly, he turned toward Selena. For the first time since the war began, his expression showed emotion. Relief. You finally came. The statement unsettled everyone present, because suddenly, it no longer sounded like Lucien had been hunting Selena to destroy her. It sounded like he needed her. Then the truth finally emerged. Centuries earlier, the original Wolf Queen discovered something hidden beneath the kingdoms. An ancient force capable of corrupting werewolf bloodlines entirely. Not through violence, through instinct itself. The infection spread through wolves emotionally first. Fear, rage, obsession, then eventually, complete loss of control. The first royal bloodlines sealed the force beneath the citadel using ancient lunar magic. But the seal required continuous royal blood to survive. When the Wolf Queen bloodline disappeared, the prison slowly weakened. Lucien explained everything calmly while the chamber trembled around them. The rogue attacks, the destroyed villages, the war, all of it served one purpose: finding the final surviving royal heir before the seal collapsed completely. Selena. At first, the revelation sounded impossible. Then the chamber walls cracked. And suddenly, everyone understood Lucien had been telling the truth, because from beneath the throne, something began waking up. The sound alone reportedly drove several warriors to their knees instantly. Not a howl, not a roar, something older. The chains surrounding the throne tightened violently. Silver light spread across the chamber floor. And beneath the stone itself, massive red eyes slowly opened in darkness. Witnesses later struggled describing what happened next accurately. Because the creature beneath the throne did not fully emerge. It did not need to. Its presence alone nearly shattered the minds of wolves inside the chamber. Several rogue soldiers turned on each other immediately. Others fled screaming into the tunnels. Even ancient Shadow Fang wolves showed visible fear. The corruption spread through the battlefield above almost instantly afterward. Wounded warriors across the citadel began attacking allies. Entire sections of the fortress descended into madness. The prison was failing, and according to Lucian, only one thing could stop the collapse permanently. The Silver Queen had to bind herself to the throne willingly. Forever. The realization horrified everyone present, because the process would not kill Selena. It was worse. It would trap her beneath the citadel eternally as part of the seal itself. Lucian had not searched for Selena to destroy her. He searched for her because she was the last chance to save the kingdom. Then came the moment no one expected. Kale arrived inside the chamber, alone, bleeding heavily from the battle above. Witnesses later claimed the Alpha looked barely capable of standing. Yet somehow, he still reached Selena before the final seal collapsed completely. And when he understood what Lucian demanded of her, Kale refused instantly. The argument that followed reportedly shook the chamber itself. Lucian insisted sacrifice was necessary. The kingdoms could not survive otherwise. But Kale stood between Selena and the throne without hesitation. For the first time since the Blood Moon Cliffs, he chose her completely. Not the kingdom, not power, her. Then the creature beneath the throne broke one of the ancient chains, and suddenly, there was no time left. The corruption spread violently across the chamber. Stone pillars collapsed. Warriors lost control around them. The hollow below itself began breaking apart, and in the middle of the chaos, Selena finally understood the terrible truth. The prophecy was never about conquering the kingdoms. It was about saving them. But saving them might cost her everything. By the time the second chain broke beneath the throne, the battle above Iron Crescent Citadel had already become impossible to control. Entire sections of the fortress collapsed into fire. Warriors attacked allies without recognizing them. And throughout the kingdoms surrounding the citadel, wolves began reporting the same terrifying symptoms: unexplained aggression, blackened eyes, loss of instinct control. The corruption sealed beneath the hollow below was spreading far beyond the battlefield now. Fast enough to destroy every territory within days, perhaps hours. And deep beneath the collapsing citadel, all remaining hope rested on one impossible decision. Selena Vale stood between two futures. One would save the kingdoms. The other would save herself. According to surviving witnesses, the atmosphere inside the hollow below no longer felt entirely real. The ancient chamber trembled constantly. Silver flames erupted across cracked walls. The throne at the center of the vault pulsed with violent energy. And beneath it, the creature chained below the seal continued waking slowly. Only fragments of it were visible. Massive claws pressing against broken stone. Red eyes glowing beneath darkness. Ancient hatred radiating through the chamber strongly enough to weaken ordinary wolves instantly. Several warriors reportedly collapsed unconscious simply standing near it. Even Lucian Draven appeared shaken now. Because, despite everything, the corruption was awakening faster than he predicted. Meanwhile, Kale refused to move away from Selena, bleeding heavily from multiple wounds. The Alpha still positioned himself between her and the throne as the chamber continued falling apart around them. Witnesses later described his expression as something beyond desperation. Not fear for himself. Fear of losing her again. Because now, for the first time since the Blood Moon Cliffs, Kale fully understood what Selena had suffered alone. The betrayal, the isolation, the transformation, and perhaps worst of all, the realization that the kingdoms only valued her after discovering her power. Yet despite everything, she was still preparing to save them. The cruelty of that truth reportedly broke something inside him completely. Lucian continued insisting there was no alternative. According to the ancient laws governing the seal, Only living royal blood could contain the corruption permanently. Selena had to merge with the throne willingly. Her consciousness would remain trapped beneath the hollow below eternally, holding the prison shut from within. Not death. Endless isolation. The same fate suffered by the first Wolf Queen centuries earlier. At first, Selena said nothing. She simply stared toward the throne while the chamber shook around her. And according to witnesses, something about her expression changed at that moment. Not fear. Acceptance. Because deep down, Selena already understood the truth. Everything that happened since the Blood Moon Cliffs had led here. The betrayal. The awakening. The prophecy. Even Kale. It was all connected. The Silver Queen was never destined to rule peacefully. She was created to carry the burden no one else could survive. Then came the moment that stunned everyone present. Kale knelt in front of her, not as an alpha, not as a ruler, as a man who finally understood the cost of his failure. Witnesses later claimed the chamber itself fell strangely quiet when he spoke. I was supposed to protect you. No excuses. No denial. No attempt to justify what happened at the cliffs. Only the truth. Raw enough to silence even Lucian. Kale admitted everything. His weakness. His hesitation. His blindness towards Seraphine's manipulation. And most devastating of all, the fact that Selena trusted him until the very last second before she fell. The confession reportedly shook several warriors emotionally, because throughout the war, many viewed Kale as a ruthless alpha seeking redemption. But standing inside the hollow below, he looked broken. Then Kale made an offer no one expected. He volunteered to take Selena's place. Lucian rejected the idea immediately. The throne required royal blood. Kale would die within moments of attempting the seal. But the Alpha refused to back down. According to surviving witnesses, Kale drew his blade and stepped toward the throne anyway, because after everything, he finally reached one terrifying conclusion. Selena surviving him was not enough. He needed her to live freely, even if he could not stand beside her. The moment nearly changed Selena's decision completely, because for the first time since the cliffs, she saw undeniable proof of something she spent years refusing to believe. Kale truly loved her. Not the Luna title, not the prophecy, her. And somehow, that realization hurt more than betrayal itself. Because it arrived too late. Then came the final collapse. The third chain shattered beneath the throne. The entire chamber erupted violently. Corruption flooded through the hollow below like living darkness. Several warriors transformed instantly. Others lost control entirely. The creature beneath the throne began rising fully for the first time in centuries. And according to survivors, its appearance defied description. Not a wolf. Not a monster. Something older than both. A creature formed from rage, corruption, and ancient instinct itself. The first thing it did was speaking Selena's name. The sound alone cracked the remaining pillars across the chamber. Then suddenly, the throne activated. Silver energy exploded through the vault. Ancient markings illuminated across Selena's skin automatically. And deep inside the chamber, the moon goddess finally appeared. Not physically, as light. Ancient silver light descending across the throne itself. Every wolf inside the chamber reportedly dropped instinctively to their knees. Then the voice came. Not heard through the ears. Felt. The queen must choose. The chamber fell silent, because suddenly, everything depended entirely on Selena. Not prophecy, not destiny. Choice. The moon goddess revealed one final truth hidden from the kingdoms for centuries. The seal could be restored without eternal imprisonment, but only through sacrifice willingly shared between bonded souls. Not dominance, not power, love. The revelation stunned everyone, because the ritual required something impossible. The Silver Queen would survive, but only if the mate bond between her and Kale still existed. The problem was this. Selena severed the bond beneath the mountains. Completely. Or at least, that was what everyone believed. Then something extraordinary happened. The throne itself reacted to Kale standing beside her. Silver markings reignited across both their skin simultaneously. Fragments of the mate bond still remained alive, buried beneath pain, buried beneath betrayal, but alive. The realization changed everything. Lucien immediately understood the danger. The ritual would require both Selena and Kale to share the burden of the seal together. If either one failed emotionally, the corruption would consume them both instantly. And outside the hollow below, the kingdoms were already collapsing. There was no more time. Then Selena made her choice. Slowly, she reached for Kale's hand, and the entire chamber exploded with silver light. The silver light inside the hollow below could reportedly be seen from miles beyond Iron Crescent Citadel. Survivors standing outside the collapsing fortress later described the sky itself changing color. The storm clouds above the battlefield split apart. Silver fire spread across the heavens. And for one impossible moment, every wolf across every kingdom felt the same overwhelming sensation at once. Silence. Not ordinary silence. The kind that arrives before history changes forever. Deep beneath the citadel, Selena and Kale stood before the ancient throne as the final ritual began. The corruption surrounding the chamber had already consumed most of the remaining structure. Stone pillars collapsed continuously around them. The creature beneath the seal screamed violently as silver chains wrapped around its body once more. And throughout the hollow below, warriors struggled desperately to hold the chamber together long enough for the ritual to complete. But according to surviving witnesses, the most terrifying part was not the creature. It was the bond. Because the moment Selena touched Kale's hand, every memory between them resurfaced instantly, not selectively. Everything. The first time they met beneath the winter moon ceremony. Every rejection. Every lonely night Selena spent waiting for him. Every moment Kale almost confessed the truth but failed. The forged message. The cliffs. The fall. The grief afterward. Nothing remained hidden anymore. And according to ancient Shadow Fong records, that was the true purpose of the ritual. Two souls could not share the burden of the seal while carrying lies between them. Everything had to be exposed completely. The emotional impact nearly destroyed them both. Witnesses later described silver energy erupting uncontrollably throughout the chamber as the bond reopened. Kale collapsed repeatedly under the force of Selena's pain, because, for the first time, he truly experienced what she felt at the cliffs. The terror. The heartbreak. The moment she realized he might not save her. It shattered him completely. Meanwhile, Selena experienced Kale's memories in return. Not excuses. Truth. She saw Seraphine manipulating royal reports for years, planting false evidence, turning council members against Selena quietly from the beginning. She saw Kale discovering the forged message too late, saw him racing toward the cliffs moments before her fall. And finally, she saw the one memory Kale buried deeper than all the others. After Selena disappeared into the ravine, Kale tried jumping after her. The rogues physically restrained him. The revelation changed everything Selena believed. Not enough to erase the betrayal. Not enough to erase the pain. But enough to reveal one devastating truth. Kale never wanted her dead. He failed her. And sometimes, failure wounds deeper than hatred. Above them, the corruption creature continued breaking through the seal violently. Entire chains shattered apart. The hollow below collapsed section by section. Lucian and the remaining warriors fought desperately to buy more time. Several Shadow Fang guards died protecting the throne chamber entrances. Even Lucian himself suffered massive injuries holding the corruption back temporarily. And through all of it, the kingdoms above remained on the edge of total collapse. Because if the ritual failed, nothing would survive what awakened beneath the citadel. Then came the final phase of the bond ritual. According to ancient law, both souls had to willingly accept the burden together. Not out of duty. Choice. That was why the first royal bloodlines failed centuries earlier. They ruled through obligation instead of emotional truth. The moon goddess demanded something stronger. Trust freely given. Inside the collapsing chamber, Selena faced the hardest decision of her life. Not whether to save the kingdoms, whether she could trust Kale again after everything. The silence between them reportedly lasted several seconds. Then Kale spoke the final words witnesses later recorded inside the hollow below. If you walk away now, I will still spend the rest of my life protecting your name. No promises, no dramatic speeches, only the truth. And somehow, that mattered more. Because for the first time since they met, Kale was no longer speaking as an alpha trying to control fate. He was speaking as a man finally willing to lose everything honestly. Then Selena made her decision. She forgave him. Not completely, not instantly, but enough. Enough to choose him beside her instead of against her. The mate bond reignited fully. Silver light exploded across the throne chamber violently enough to stop the corruption creature mid-attack. Ancient chains reformed around the seal instantly. The throne awakened completely. And according to surviving witnesses, the moon goddess herself appeared above Selena and Kale briefly before the final sealing began. The corruption screamed throughout the hollow below. The sound reportedly shattered stone across multiple underground levels. But this time, the seal did not feed on sacrifice alone. It fed on shared balance, shared burden, shared love. Selena and Kale stood together at the center of the throne as silver energy spread through every kingdom simultaneously. Across the battlefield above, corrupted wolves collapsed instantly. The black markings covering rogue soldiers disappeared. The skies above Iron Crescent Citadel cleared for the first time since the war began. And slowly, the creature beneath the throne was forced back into darkness once more. The seal closed. The war ended, but not without cost. When the silver light finally faded, the hollow below was almost completely destroyed. Large sections of the citadel collapsed permanently into the mountain beneath it. Hundreds of warriors died during the battle. Several alpha territories were left leaderless, and Lucian Draven himself vanished during the final collapse. No body was ever recovered. That detail would later become deeply important, because some believe Lucian survived intentionally. Others insist he allowed the mountain to take him willingly. No one truly knows. But according to the final Shadow Fang reports, his last expression before disappearing was not hatred. Relief. As though the burden he carried for centuries had finally ended. Meanwhile, the kingdoms emerged into a completely different world. The truth about the royal bloodlines spread rapidly after the war. The Shadow Fang kingdom revealed itself publicly for the first time in centuries. Several corrupt alpha councils collapsed within weeks. And perhaps most shocking of all, Selena refused the traditional royal throne offered to her afterward. Witnesses later claimed her decision stunned every surviving kingdom leader. Because after everything, she did not seek domination. She chose reform. A new alliance between kingdoms. No hidden bloodlines. No forced hierarchy. No Luna treated as disposable again. The werewolf world would rebuild differently. Or it would not survive at all. As for Blood Moon territory, its future changed forever. Seraphine was eventually captured months later near the eastern ruins. According to official records, she disappeared during transport before reaching trial. No confirmed sightings ever surfaced afterward. Yet rumors still persist. Some claim rogue loyalists freed her. Others believe she fled beyond human territories entirely. And among the darker stories whispered across taverns and border villages, some insist Selena herself dealt with Seraphine privately. The truth remains unknown, but perhaps the most fascinating mystery of all was what became of Selena and Kale afterward, because despite restoring the mate bond, they did not return to the old palace immediately. Not as Alpha and Luna, not as rulers. For nearly a year, they vanished from public view entirely. Some say they traveled through ruined territories helping rebuild villages destroyed during the war. Others believe Selena struggled controlling the full power of the Silver Queen after the seal. And according to several surviving Shadow Fong elders, the bond between them remained extraordinarily rare afterward. Not because it was perfect, because it survived what should have destroyed it completely. Years later, historians would continue debating the same question surrounding the Blood Moon War. Was Selena Vale truly chosen by destiny? Or was she simply the first wolf strong enough to break the cycle of betrayal repeated for centuries? Perhaps the answer lies somewhere inside the ruins beneath Iron Crescent Citadel. Because even now, long after the war ended, travelers crossing the northern mountains still report hearing something strange during certain moonlit nights. Two wolf howls echoing together beneath the wind. One silver, one black, guarding the darkness below. Waiting, in case history ever tries to repeat itself again. The age of the Wolf Queen may have only just begun.